Welcome to this episode of the Down the Pub podcast. It's been 2 weeks, a little week, 2 weeks since
Two. Yeah.
since we last talked. Just life got in the way a little bit, so we've got a couple of things to go over as usual. Derek and Dave is here. Welcome back, lads. How's it going?
Rate them up in the lovely, lovely tropical climes of Sydney, Nova Scotia tonight. So happy to be calling in.
Oh wow! And Derek, where are you in?
I'm actually in Dartmouth for a change.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay,
yeah. I'm
okay.
I'm not anywhere exotic.
Okay. Well, Clayton Park is very exotic. It's just a nicer place, I think. We beat York 4-0. It was a fantastic game. It went along. It was a great result, great game. We just went at them from the get-go, and it's kind of culmination of the work that's been put in the last couple of weeks of you could just see this kind of building up. So yeah, I'm sure you guys were pretty happy with that performance too.
No, I thought
The
it was a
lag, the lag on the
For
internet up here, it's
for
tough. It's
for
tough.
fuck's sakes, why don't you just fucking say something, will you?
I thought it was I thought it was a pretty comprehensive performance start to finish. The score line was fair. I took a friend from who was visiting from the UK, and it's always good to get sort of an outsider's perspective. And he was both impressed with the team and I think sort of the caliber of the league. So yeah, it was a good day out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was super excited by that one. We've been talking really since that losing streak started, kind of mid-season, that our finishing has not been good, and then this game our finishing is unbelievable. So it just made me so happy, and I was excited to do the pod, and then unfortunately we got derailed with our personal timings. But anyway, very excited to see that score go up.
yeah. Considering that like York were coming off the back of like a 5-1 home win, they were definitely um on a high, so we definitely like knocked them down a peg or two, so that was kind of nice. And then obviously like we went to Hamilton this last weekend, where things went back to normal, where we created chances and couldn't score. Unfortunately, Coimbra was injured in the York game, which I think really set us back a little bit. So I kind of just want to get your thoughts. We kind of had Bahambula playing as a striker. Just wanted to get your thoughts on how he did, and do you think that's going to be the option going forward, or are we going to be using this new guy, Walkes? A few people were impressed when he came on. Didn't really get that much of a run out, I think, but people seem to like whatever he was doing when he came on. So, yeah, what did you guys think of Bahambula and obviously the new guy?
But yeah, it was interesting because I think we've talked previously about us respectively having our doubts maybe about Bahambula as a striker, but he was kind of, because of the injury to Coimbra, he got pressed into service in that role relatively early in the York match. I think 19th minute or whatever, he had to get subbed on, and played striker for a large part of that game. I thought he actually, obviously got a couple of goals and impressed in that role. Maybe offered a little less in the Hamilton game. I did think that Walks when he came on did bring some good energy. He's a player that um, I think 3 years ago I'd expressed an interest in signing maybe on a loan when he was still with TFC because he was putting up decent numbers with TFC too, and had put up good numbers sort of in college and in League One prior to that, and then obviously didn't stick with TFC and has spent the last couple of years in League One Ontario, putting up very impressive numbers there. I understand he did have a trial with York at one point and didn't stick, but no, I thought in the Forge game, I thought when he came on, he offered some good energy and generated a couple of scoring chances late. So excited to see more of what he has to offer with more minutes under his belt. So
I think one of the things I took from that, so where I'd been, it's never about effort with Bahambula. I just don't think he's strong enough to be in that hold up, like play the ball into my feet. The 4-0 game, I was like shocked because he came on and the guy I sit beside, my buddy Mike, he's just like, oh, I hate this. Like I hate him playing in the false nine. And he proceeded to draw the penalty, win three headers like over the center backs, and I'm like, what is happening? He was holding up the ball, and then in the Hamilton game, that was actually the piece that I took away from him was like, oh my gosh, he's actually holding players off, shielding the ball, letting us catch up to the play, and it was looking way better. So again, maybe we need to maybe cool some of the overreaction. I mean, we don't know what goes on in practice. I'm sure that our center backs aren't hammering him like the guys do in the real games. But it was just really heartening to see him be able to hold up to the physical stress, at least for the first half. I thought he was really good doing that against Hamilton, and bring Rhea and Vitor into the game. So that was really positive for the club.
I think he kind of gave us a different dimension to what we kind of have had. We like when Telfer plays up there, and also when Coimer plays up there. It's all about hold play and trying to grab our midfield to join in and hold the ball up. The first like 10-15 minutes, he was really going at defenders, and I think we've kind of missed that. I think we haven't had that in quite a while. So it kind of gave us a different dimension. He had a really good chance that he created for himself, pretty much out of nothing in the first little part of the game, and I think he was kind of given Nimick and Asinodi Johnson, however you say his name. I was getting it wrong.
That was
Um,
great, actually. That was fantastic.
Thank you, but they're like they're not the fastest guys, right? So a guy like him, like you kind of have to make sure that you're getting your tackles right, and it kind of puts a lot of focus onto um, your defending rather than what they're used to is kind of having the ball for the large periods of the game. So I think it kind of definitely gives a different option. I again, his his finishing in this game kind of let him down a little bit. I think he had a couple of decent chances, and it kind of um, didn't really work out for him. But yeah, I don't hate him as a forward. I think in that sense where like he gives us a different option of that he can drive at players and kind of put people on the back foot. I enjoy it. I think it gives a different dimension. So
So
um,
Anthony, that's one thing that you hit the key point, and I've been kind of talking about this since Nimick was our center back. Nimick, and I'm going to say this, that Forge back line is great when you play in front of them. If you want to try and play between the lines, they actually love that because then Becker and those guys can to judge or poor. Like then they can stick their foot in and help defend. But when you guys get them facing their own net, it's and again, same for any defender, but that's when I find you can actually cause a lot of problems for Hamilton. That's why Borchevsky causes them all kinds of problems. That's why like those quick York forwards cause them problems, and we've never ever done that against them. So I think it gave us really something interesting to look at when we're in the final against them in Hamilton is playing some speed against that back line.
yeah, I mean they mentioned on commentary like how Ford was so static. Like when they had the ball, like they had so I've never seen its Ford's team turn the ball over so much as in that first
Yeah.
25-30 minutes. They just like they said that they were really missing Brian Wright because Mo Babuli was just like sitting deep and they didn't have anybody in behind to kind of, Nimic likes those long balls and stuff like that. I thought like first 25-30 minutes is probably the best we played against Forge in quite a while. I think we got our tactics pretty spot on. I think the problem when you're playing Forge is if you're not taking those chances, you always just give them a chance to get into the game, unfortunately. And they obviously got the penalty from Timoteo, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on Nimic missing it. How were you happy? Were you like really
Can we
really
just talk
happy,
about Wes's defending
or
though? Like, there's two things. That is some shocking defending, and I, that game made me realize what Telfer brings to us at the back. Like, he's going to stand that guy up and try to make him go down to the end line. Like, he would never let him cut back across him. And Wes, it's just lazy footwork, and we've seen that from him a few times. And I think to your guys' point, you guys have made this numerous times. I want to see Wes higher up the pitch. I don't really want to see him defending there, even though he does win a lot of balls. But I feel like teams are going after him there. Like he's that weak point of if that's a back five or a 3+2, that's the weak point where I would attack.
Yeah, I agree. I think he offers a lot going forward, obviously, and that can be helpful in sort of I don't know whether we call it a wing back or a wide midfielder or what, but that can be helpful in that type of role. But yeah, when we are forced to defend, I think Dave's quite right that teams are probably targeting him because he's had a few kind of bad fouls at this point. So yeah, it's a problem.
I think that I did actually make a note of this, that he's probably going to still having nightmares about Poma running at him.
Yeah.
Even for the goal, he was kind of you can't let him get the ball across in there. It was just like, you got to push him to the byline and make him make the cross and try and block it. It was kind of easy for him. And I'm not trying to piss on him because he's a really good player and I think
Yeah.
he is one of our better players. But it's kind of a disservice to him that he has to play in a role that is still not his main way to play, and it's against these top teams, I think, where it really stands out. When we're playing against Vancouver or we're playing against Valor, it's not that much of an issue. But when you're playing against that kind of higher quality in the league, it really stands out. And I think you're right, Dave, that they really kind of focus in on him being the weak point because, like, obviously Perelman's been rock solid for I think he's probably had one, two bad games, but like for most of it, it's just been rock solid. So it's I think going into the playoffs, that's something that they kind of probably need to look. So who would you prefer to see in that position then? Like I personally I don't think Telfer is the answer either. That's my 2 cents. I think um I feel like he's kind of wasted out there, to be perfectly honest. I think like
Well, left back's always been one of our big challenges, and they're not. I mean, and in fairness, I think that's a challenge for a lot of teams. It's not, good left backs aren't a dime a dozen, and we've gone through a lot of different players in that position, and I think we settled on Wes and kind of converted him from more of a midfielder or even a winger to that role, and he's adapted well in some ways, but it's a challenging position to play. A player like Ampoma's a handful for anyone,
Mhm.
including even the best left backs in the league, and so that's got to be close to the top of your list of recruitment priorities for this offseason is bringing in a proper left back.
But I thought JGL was our left back solution.
Nah.
He did spend some time there in this game, didn't he?
He
When he
did
came
it.
on,
Yeah.
I think they moved west further, and he was playing that sort of wide left role. So, and that's the thing. Like that's our next option, in that position, which is
Well, and that's
not.
when they can do the inversion, right? Like,
Yeah,
so we haven't really seen that left back inverted this year.
yeah,
Maybe in like little bits and spurts, but I don't know. Maybe I think that's, and I think we've heard Patrice say that before. Is that West can come inside, and we know JGL because that's his usual spot is playing in that defensive center mid role.
yeah,
So I don't know. I think Telfer's Patrice's answer there because it keeps him on the field.
yeah.
I don't know if we have a better answer today, unless we're saying Mekadesh or Dunn is coming in at center back and we're pushing Jefferson out one. I'm not sure. He's not left footed, but
like, we've had like Kareem Sow, we've had Alphonse play there before.
yeah.
I think Alphonse struggled a little bit when he was there. I think Kareem would probably be a lot better because Kareem's a little bit more agile and a little bit more adaptive because he pretty much played everywhere along the back line for us at this stage. So, and I
But I think in that role, you really need somebody that can get up and down the pitch, and Wes offers that, and Ryan offers that too. I don't think JGL
yeah
offers that.
yeah.
I've certainly seen teams have some success with trying to convert wingers to kind of that wing back or wide midfielder role. I think it's a little harder to push a center back out because center backs don't aren't used to kind of getting up and down the pitch in that way. So I think it's a challenge. Yeah.
And Jefferson's doing a great job, like with
Yeah.
Perlman supporting him on that side. So, like, if
Yep.
Perlman goes, which we've seen a lot more, he's very comfortable defending any player with, like, if it's speed, if it's trickery. And I just like the. I think we've all been very excited to see him get back in the mix here the last few games because I do think he's been an underutilized resource this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's been a great adaptation is bringing Jefferson in and then pushing Perlman into that wide role. Because like you said, he's a defender first, so he can defend, but he does not mind getting forward and getting balls into the box and stuff too. So he offers something on both sides of the ball, which is nice.
And we obviously saw Mekadesh and Dunn on the bench for this game. So like there's a lot of competition for those places in the back line. So I think that it's a good thing because it's obviously going to spur Jefferson, Kareem, and Well, TMG is pretty much a given in the back line, so it kind of just pushes you on a little bit to kind of make sure that you're staying in the team. Because I feel like the way when you've got these guys coming back in, any kind of mistakes and you're out, it's going to be so hard to get back in again. That's because the levels of Dunn and Mekadesh are fairly high. I do enjoy a good JGL random cameo like this where he just magically appears from like it's like I feel like I'm like in a different timeline or something where he just like pops in like it's like what the multiverse where JGL is still a major part of the Wanderers. It's kind of funny just to see him reappear every now and again. So, but
That's
yeah.
amazing that he's come out of the multiverse. We were all going to say the wilderness, but the multiverse is fine too. In another world, JGL is starting with Lorenzo in center midfield.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And and Akeem Garcia is still playing in front. Um, so like obviously, as you said, Dave, you kind of alluded to that. The final in Hamilton. What would be your big takeaways from this game of how we should play in the playoffs if we do move forward? Like I think there was a lot of positives. Like I'm not normally a negative Nancy and whatever, but I was really impressed by a lot of what we did in this game.
Dave's gone silent. He's on mute.
Sorry, guys. It's the Sydney connection. Like I pressed unmute 3 minutes ago. I swear. Someone talk to the province about that. So I think what we're seeing is this. We have to have Ray on the pitch. We haven't even talked about him. He
Yep.
was magic for the first 30 minutes. He really did fall out of this game after halftime. Vitor, I think, probably has to start, right? So like our front three is determined itself. Lorenzo and Isaiah have to start. So like I think our lineup is coming together. To me, it's going to be whether Dunn or Mekadesh can actually push any of those guys. I'm going to say 2 out of the 4. So it's So and it's Jefferson if they can push them out, because then they will give us more options on our free kicks and set plays. So I think we dominated Forge for the first 30. Then they took over for a big chunk. So we know we can play against that team and we can dominate them both on the ball and we can defend them quite well. But it's always guys like Babuli that just like pop out of nowhere. Like it was TMG a couple years ago in the playoffs, right? That scored against us. These are guys you don't expect to come in and like score that goal, or just like they don't make the run that we're expecting. And so I think we've shown that we can play with any of the teams now, and it's going to be on Patrice to like make sure these guys are locked in defensively. I think that's what it's going to be. I think we could actually be a defensive team going into the playoffs with some dangerous breaks if we show we can convert those opportunities.
I agree 100%. I think once Telfer gets back from international duty, he'll slot into the center forward. I think that's where I can see him kind of playing because he was pretty much playing there at the start of the season, and Coimba was kind of switching in with him. So I'll probably and we might see Reshaun coming in and taking his place to give us a bit of a different dimension if we're kind of behind in games or what have you.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm really curious to see how Reshaun does at this level because when you watch his League One highlights, like he's a very versatile forward. He's got some pace. He's a little tricky. He can do the hold up play and hold off defenders. So like he does a little bit of everything. And curious to see how that translates at this level. Um, I don't want to rain on the parade though. I do want to raise one controversial topic. The subs in this match.
I'm waiting for it. I didn't want to be the one to bring it up, but I also have something to say on this. So Derek, go for bud.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it was someone on the Discord that said it when they saw Forge make that triple sub in the 70th minute and we didn't really respond. They kind of felt like they felt like the goal was inevitable at that point. And granted, we did make a couple subs before the goal happened, but it was done in a very strange way. So we make two subs 90 seconds apart, two single subs 90 seconds apart. So we burn two windows subbing two players. And there were, a fair amount was made out of it on the broadcast. Was one of the players not ready? Was whatever. And afterwards, Patrice's explanation was it was strategic because he didn't want two players coming into the game and trying to get up to speed at the same time. Now, if your players are coming into the game and taking some time to get up to speed, it's sure as heck not happening in 90 seconds. So I'm not really sure I buy that rationale, but I thought we waited too late and I thought we used our windows inefficiently.
So I'm going to add the quote from that to the bollocks Bible. Like he said that he hoped it would allow the team to maintain their good tempo rather than needing both JGL and Boyd to get up to match pace at the same time. For the first 10 games of this season, we've subbed in. We did like triple substitutions or we did a double substitution, and now suddenly you want to have somebody come on for 90 seconds to get up to speed. He's all good after 90 seconds, and then it's like, okay, now we can bring the other guy on. Like, it's so disruptive to the whole flow of the team to bring a guy in 1 minute after the other. Like they come in and there was three great players they were able to bring into the game, and that changed the flow of the
Yeah.
game. And in fairness, for the last 7, 8 minutes of this game, we were the better team. Like the last seven, they were hanging on. Like they couldn't get the ball out of their own box. We were forging forge for that last 7 minutes, and it just that little window. Like we waited too late, I think, anyway, to make a substitution because we were kind of like drifting out of the game. As you said, I mean, like Raya like was kind of disappeared like in part of the second half. Like it happens, right? I mean, and you got to kind of make it
Look, it
happen. Yeah,
happens to the best. It happens to the
yeah,
best players sometimes.
yeah.
Sometimes you just, whatever, the energy level drops, you fall out of a game. And I just felt like earlier subs, more subs per window. I thought bringing in Walks earlier might have made it like when you see how many chances he generated in the short time he was on the pitch, bringing him in earlier would have helped. He's been with the club for weeks apparently, so
Mhm.
this isn't a question if he just joined the club and needed to get up to speed on the tactics. He'd been training with the team for several weeks, by all accounts. So I just don't understand the logic of burning, of using your windows in that way.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I'm on board with what you said, Anthony. I, to me, the only thing that would make sense is he was protecting that player from the like, oh, I went to the bathroom and so he wasn't ready. Well, just hold your other sub back. You can pull that
Yeah.
back. You just say, ref, no, we're not ready, and that would like do it 90 seconds later together. But yeah, it was bizarre.
I like even like just going back to what you're saying about there with Rashawn, like he's the only striker on the bench that obviously he was going to trust to bring on. Like they scored in the 81st minute, and we waited until the 89th to bring him in to try and, after they scored, like that's when you need to make that sub and try and chase the game. Like we're losing, you know what I mean? Like I don't understand what you think he can do. And he did play like he had a really great chance, and I think the guys in the broadcast were a little bit harsh on him because they said he should have finished that chance he had. It was kind of
Tough.
yeah, a bit of a, it was really awkward.
It was a side half volley, but it was
Yeah,
like chest height,
yeah.
Yeah.
like 2 minutes after he got on. So yeah, it's a little
But
difficult.
you're talking about like getting up to the pace of a game. Like, why bring him on in the 89th minute to try and yeah? Anyway, yeah. Anyway,
Well, I'll change the subject then because I've got another question.
okay.
Dave sort of, and it was spurred by something Dave said earlier. So he talked about sort of Isaiah and Lorenzo being kind of locked in as our midfield. Lorenzo's suspended for next game. So who do you bring in his place? You've got Rampy coming in off a couple of fairly impressive performances with Trinidad and Tobago, but
It's
I
gonna be
don't think
rampy.
I,
It's gonna be
I,
rampy.
I guess, but and so that raises a broader question for me because I don't think Rampy's not a Lorenzo type player, right? So how do you how do we change the way we play to get the most out of Rampy? Because it certainly seems someone was asking this question on the Discord the other day. What is TNT doing to get the most out of Rampy, and what tactical tweaks maybe do we make to get the most out of Rampy? And I didn't watch enough of the TNT games to really judge what they
But
were
didn't they
doing,
didn't
but
they lose to Curacao?
They drew with Curacao.
they
They
drew with Curacao
lost to
and lost
Jamaica.
to Jamaica, but he played quite well in both,
Okay.
from what I saw and based on the football score, which should be taken with a grain of salt. But he was one of their better players in both games by all accounts. So
The thing with Rampy though is that like he's a solid footballer. Like you can trust him with the ball, and he'll move the ball around and do whatever. Where he's being a little bit um where it's starting to show a little bit, I guess, in this year has been like when other teams are attacking us, he doesn't have the pace to keep up. I mean, the goal I think that Valor scored, like he was twisted inside out for that goal, right? So there's what I haven't watched it from that game, so I can't tell you either. But like I don't like he's a really solid player to be able to just move the ball side to side and keep your things flowing. He's not going to be a Lorenzo who's going to be able to like just ping passes around. That's not his game. So it's going to be interesting because I actually genuinely don't know like what you do. Like, are we going to see Isaiah Johnson moved out to the left and then we'll bring Johan Boy in as an emergency six. Who knows what goes through the mind, right? So, I honestly think we'll probably see Biello come in. I think it would be
Uh,
Biello.
yeah.
I think to me
Where
that's who I would bring in, Biello and Johnson. I think they would.
Biella wasn't even on the bench the last game, so was he injured?
There was a game he missed. I can't remember if it was last one or the one before due to family reasons.
Oh,
He
did
was
he?
away.
Okay.
He was away from the team. So if he wasn't
Okay.
on the bench for that one, I think that was the one he missed due to family reasons.
All right.
So yeah, I say if he's available, I would go with that duo, and then obviously have Rampy coming in if we need to like later on. There's not really like it's kind of funny. Like at the start of the year, we talked about how deep our team was, and it just seems like there's these like little particular positions that when things happen, we kind of don't particularly have.
Well, I mean, and think about who we're playing. So this is
Yeah,
Calgary.
yeah,
So to make sure Warchewski's marked out of the game, we need to put pressure on Camargo. Musi will be back, so we're going to need help off our left side. So like that's what tells me that Telfer's probably in. But maybe do you go to like a 4-4-2 and get some more of our attacking players on the pitch against these guys? Because again, it's not a must win, but if you want third, it's a must win,
yeah.
right? So if we're just trying to hold off York, that's one thing. But we're in a good spot, and this is like a game where you put down your flag and say, "Hey, we can beat Calgary at their home. We don't want to. We want to beat them at Wanderers grounds. So like, let's get them here." So like maybe we could do that. I think that might be a possibility. And then you could do Biello Rampy, or you could play like three right in the middle with Biello Rampy Isaiah and just jam up the middle against those guys. Might be an opportunity too.
Yeah, you just kind of worry like what Moosey can do to us because he's found form again. He kind of dropped out and now is back again. And when that guy is like on top form, you have to be on top of your game too. So, um, I I, I think it would be a really good thing for the team for us to get a draw or a win out of this because it'll show that like if Lorenzo's not there or if we're missing people that we still have the squad to to still go because between now and the end of the season who knows what can happen, right? So
Well, if the ref calls the obvious handball, then maybe we'll be in with a shout.
yeah, never gonna happen. Derek, I thought we would switch gears a little bit and talk about your Tides. Obviously, the big news was Canadian legend Erin Mcleod announcing her retirement. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that, and also, um, although she's only been here for a short space of time, what it meant to the Tides to have somebody of that caliber in and around the team in the inaugural season.
Yeah, I mean, I think she came in with the expectation, I think that this would probably be her last season in any event, and that she was going to transition to coaching after this season was done. So obviously the injury kind of accelerated the timeline in an unfortunate way, but not super surprising. And it sounds like she's already landed a role with Inter Halifax with one of the local clubs. I think is their technical director or head of youth development or something like that. So sort of a senior coaching role, which is great for the local sporting community. I think it's one of those spin-off benefits of having professional clubs here that we don't often talk about is players often transition to coaching afterwards, and a number of former Wanderers and I expect a number of former Tides will probably wind up sticking around. So, obviously I think it was a marquee signing that brought a lot of attention to the team right from the get-go. My sense is she probably would have been a very positive presence in the dressing room for a number of reasons. I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple of years ago on a coaching course, and she's one of the warmest, most genuine people you'll meet, and just a very positive attitude, great knowledge of the game, would be a great mentor for younger players, particularly those, that are playing professionally for the first time. Um, Her injuries also meant that Annika Tothas had to kind of step up and become the starting keeper partway through the season, and I think she's really impressed in spite of the results, and would love to see her come back for another season. I don't know if this means it's kind of the end of the road for Erin with the Tides, or whether they might have some role with her for the club going forward as well. So the fact that she's working for Inter doesn't necessarily preclude some type of role with the Tides as well. We've certainly seen folks like Ollie Hewish working with both Suburban and the Wanderers, and maybe we can expect to see the same on the women's side. But yeah, I mean, a marquee signing that brought a lot of attention to the city, and that I think is, would have brought a lot of positivity to the dressing room. And I expect she's going to be a real positive presence in the coaching community going forward. So a lot of positives from that, in spite of the unfortunate circumstances of having to retire early. So.
Yeah, I think it's it brought an awful lot of attention onto the toys that they needed, to kind of get bums on seats and people following the team. And I think having like a marquee sign like that really, and somebody who, as you said, like isn't afraid to get into the community and let the presence be known. I think it's ideal for um the toys, and I would like to see her eventually, or as you mentioned, the kind of hybrid role that Ollie has with Suburban and Halifax, that she would be involved with the Tides as well. Like, we might see her as an assistant coach or assistant to the assistant coach or whatever. So
And she's still around the team for what it's worth. So I was at the game last weekend, and I was sort of at the side entrance there because a number of the kids I coach were ball kids at the last game, and she was coming in the side as well with her kid, and going obviously in to watch her wife play. So she's still around the team, and her presence is still felt. So.
that's awesome. Best of luck in retirement. So. It's as we said, it's been like 2 weeks since we talked football. So the last game, Wanderers got beaten 1-0 at home by Toronto, the Halifax special. And the game before that they lost 5-0.
5-0 on the road to Ottawa. So that one was a bit of a train wreck.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the story of their season, that they go through these like solid 3 or 4 weeks where they might nick a 1-0 or they might get beaten 1-0 and everything kind of looks rock solid defensively, and then they just have a blowout, and it just seems to be part of the way the Tide season has gone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But in this game, like I did watch a good part of it, and I think that they did enough to at least get a draw out of this match. I thought they were actually really good in this game. I think they had a lot of decent chances. I think Nakamura had a header that was like from 2 yards out, that she hit the crossbar. But what were your thoughts on it? Like, let's not talk about the 5-0 because I don't want to cry. But what was the 1-0 like?
Well, I mean, my only comment on that would just to reflect back on something you were saying there. Like, I think when they got blown out 6-0 by the Rise earlier in the season, that was a bit more understandable because I think that was a fixture congestion issue and just the team was tired. This one was maybe a little less understandable because they had, they had properly spaced out games leading up to this. So it was just kind of a game where everything went wrong. Now, I agree with you. The 1-0 loss to Toronto, I think, could have gone either way. And Toronto are on a real hot streak right now as a club. So I think I think they're top of the league again. And yeah, they were going to be a tough team to play against regardless. I do think we missed Tiffany Cameron in that game. She was hurt. Obviously, she wasn't dressed. I saw her after the game. And just as our strikers have really struggled, and Tiffany was at least offering some nice hold up play, and um you could see sort of that experience she has as a striker, and so I think we really missed her in this game. I think Clegg is in, unfortunately, a really poor run of form and just wasn't getting it done as a striker in this game. Later in the game, they subbed her off and they tried to move Nakamura into the striker role, but she's more of an attacking. You can tell she's naturally an
Yeah.
attacking midfielder, and the role just doesn't suit her. So I think injuries may have hampered us a little bit in this game. The subs again, I was a little perplexed. I've I don't think I've made any secret of the fact that in the past I've sometimes struggled to understand Stephen Hart's substitution philosophy, but I thought there were players that were having relatively good games that came off and players that were clearly struggling that didn't. And I couldn't understand the logic, frankly, of the substitutes in this game. And I think some better sub management might have earned us a draw, to be honest. So
And
Yeah.
Anto, that was my first game I've went to live, so
Oh, what do you
it
think?
was
It's great, right?
I thought it was going to be a bit higher quality than what we saw. Like, I do agree, it was definitely worthy of a tie with the crossbar. I thought Nakamura was our standout player.
yep.
The left back was very solid, and I thought we'd see more from the central mid. Like, there wasn't a lot of fluidity in the central midfield. The ball didn't really hum around. It was clunky to me. And I'm on board with your Steve assessment. Like, I was like, why aren't we attacking down this left side? We found something. Like, let's go that way. And it just, anyway, the patterns are the same no matter what team he's coaching, which is interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, the midfield has been a challenge, I'd say. I don't think we really have a player that you describe as kind of that engine in midfield, and the team really struggles to put together consecutive passes. Our passing rate was fairly poor in this game, and it often is. And you don't see a lot of times where they string together two or three consecutive passes, and the midfield's a part of that. So yeah, I think you probably saw a lot of the challenges we've been seeing all season.
Well, and we did have 2 out of 4 referees were the Halifax referees, so that was great.
Yeah, I like I think that you're right. The turnover rate is really high. It's like they get the ball, they make a pass, and then whether it's panic or they're being instructed to, it just seems to be try and kick it long, and you're just like crying out like just keep the ball for a little while longer and trying to work out what you're going to do with it rather than just like your first instinct. And I don't know whether that's like, you know, you see it with teams that are being in the relegation zone in the Premier League too, where you kind of just have that fear. You don't want to be the person to fuck up basically, and you just want to kind of get rid of it. You know what I mean? But it's like I saw like Clegg actually had a really good chance. It was like one-on-one with the keeper, and you would like had that gone in, you kind of think that would have spurred her on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like it's just falling for her right now. But yeah,
And
like
Anto, did you see? I don't know if you noticed this. I was running at Derek. If you might have noticed this, we had a free kick in the second half, about 5 yards, 10 yards over half, going their way, and their keeper was stood outside of her far post, like 15, 17 yards out. I'm like, why would she possibly be standing there unless she knew exactly where that ball was going? And they played the ball like right towards her,
oh my
and she was able
goodness.
to like fake the catch and just let it roll out for a goal kick. And I was just like they can't be that predictable. I haven't watched enough minutes, so I don't know. Like, are we always trying to play that long diagonal on a free kick from
You've watched
middle third?
You've watched Stephen Hart teams before, right?
Yeah, but they had
We
more
are
speed. They had more speed before.
they are that predictable.
Okay, all right. Just
It
want to make
just,
sure.
but again, like Stephen, and I don't mean I like joking aside. I said it before, and I think it's very very true that he's been put into this situation to try and just steady the ship until the end of the season. Hopefully, I'm sure that they thought that they might get a couple more wins out of it, but we're not seeing these apart from the 5-0 and the 6-0 there, but we're not seeing the big blows that we're kind of seeing, and it does seem a lot more organized, and they are creating a few more chances. It just feels like, and not to be harsh, it just feels like it is a kind of a quality thing about recruitment compared to the other teams. Like you can see it on the pitch, as you said, like the amount of turnover is just like, 2, 3 passes they string together and then the ball's lost, whereas the other teams are just so much. better at keeping it, but it's year one, right? So I just think
But it's year, and people will say that, but it's year one for everyone is the reality. And so the
true,
question then
true.
becomes, why is our year one had been so much more of a struggle than anyone else's? And I mean, you know, you probably got some of the usual explanations of we're not the soccer hotbed that Toronto or Vancouver or whatever is. They have access to a bigger player pool. Players tend to want to enjoy playing closer to home, all that stuff. So they face some of the same barriers the Wanderers do in that respect. I do think sort of the mid-season recruitment, like I think the 4 players they added in the summer transfer window were quality. And one of them is one of the ones Dave mentioned. So the left back Valorant, I think, is a player to watch. But obviously, like I said, Cameron was out of this game. I thought Allen had a decent game, 1 or 2 turnovers maybe, but there's you notice other things like my friend. I took the same friend from the UK to this game, and he talked about how one player would be trying to lead the press and would look, and none of her teammates were with her. And so whatever they're trying to do from a team perspective in terms of pressing, they're not all on the same page. And that's a coaching issue.
Yeah,
That's
that
not
is,
just a
yeah.
player. That's not just a player quality issue. That's a coaching issue. If you haven't organized your press well enough that your players know when the press is on, that's a big problem.
It's definitely like a training ground, like where it's drilled into the way that teams are now. Like, it's you spend hours just working on your press and stuff like that. But yeah, it's gonna be like, I saw there at the like their marketing team are to be applauded. I think they're amazing. Like, after the game on this Saturday, they've got like an event on that Fall Raven down on Spring Garden with like drink and there's gonna be 2 players there signing stuff and stuff like that. So I think like the marketing side of the club is fantastic, and there's like a lot of partners that like that the Wanderers don't have access to. It's just they've kind of gone with the women's football side of it, but I think that they're gonna have to seriously look at like the recruitment side of things and how they're going to approach. And the Wanderers still struggle with it. You know what I mean? Like, if you got a player who is from like Ontario, like they're gonna obviously gonna pay for one of the Ontario teams. It's just a fact of life, right? And it's something that unfortunately we're all gonna have to, we struggle with, right? So anyway, so Derek, onwards and upwards. You know what I mean? Let's be a little bit more positive. I just feel like you're just a Debbie Downer. Speaking of that, speaking of that, no rants for me this week. It's like we've got our sponsorship with Gaviscon, and you've just kind of given up.
I think my rant was about the subs in the Forge game.
Okay.
So we'll call that the Gaviscon rant of the week.
Okay, I kind of stole that on you, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, you said you stole
Yeah,
my thunder there.
sorry, buddy. As I said to you, like just to end things on a positive note, I think this was one of our best games of the season. I thought we played really, really well against a really good Forwards team. It was like there's just certain little things that just niggle you, like where you kind of feel like a missed opportunities. That's all it is. It's just frustration at that. Anyway, lads, I really appreciate it. Dave, thank you for calling us all the way from Sydney. Sydney's like Newfoundland is half an hour ahead of us. Sydney's half an hour behind. That's why you're having all those issues with your internet.
Well, that and I was working on a sponsorship from the Old Triangle for Down the Pub from Sydney, and I couldn't get it closed in the amount of time, but I did jog back to the hotel to get on the call. So.
And I do appreciate it.
Votes, please. Right vote, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out. Out to vote.